Part 1: The Arrival. Tom Parker had always been a man who found solace in solitude. After years of grueling work in the city, he decided it was time for a change. A small, quaint cabin nestled in the remote woods of the Pacific Northwest seemed like the perfect escape. The property, which he had purchased sight unseen, came with an alluring promise of peace and seclusion. As Tom drove up the winding dirt road that led to his new home, he marveled at the surrounding beauty. Tall pines swayed gently in the breeze, and the occasional chirping of birds created a soothing symphony. The cabin itself was a charming, two-story structure with a stone chimney and a wraparound porch. It looked as though it belonged in a postcard. The first few days were spent unpacking and getting acquainted with the area. Tom explored nearby trails and fished in the serene lake a few miles away. Everything seemed idyllic, exactly as he had hoped. But as the sun dipped below the horizon on the fourth night, a subtle unease began to creep in. Part 2: The First Night. Tom was settling in for the night when he noticed something strange. Just as he was about to turn off the lights, he caught a glimpse of movement outside his window. He shook it off as the result of a shadow cast by the moonlight, or perhaps an animal rustling through the underbrush. After all, he was in the woods, and strange noises were part of the deal. Yet, as he lay in bed, he couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was watching him. He got up and checked the locks on the doors and windows, found everything secure, and went back to bed. Sleep came reluctantly, filled with fragmented dreams of eyes peering through the darkness. The following morning, Tom dismissed the previous night's incident as a figment of his imagination, perhaps a side effect of the excitement of moving to a new place. He went about his day as usual, but the feeling of being watched lingered in the back of his mind. Part 3: The Strange Sightings. Days turned into weeks, and Tom's initial sense of unease faded into a comfortable routine. He grew accustomed to the isolation and even started enjoying the quiet nights. However, the strange sightings continued intermittently. On one particular night, Tom was sitting in his living room, engrossed in a book. A loud thump on the window startled him. He looked up to see nothing but the dark forest outside. The noise had come from the direction of the window, not the door. He inspected the window pane, but found no evidence of anything hitting it. This incident was followed by others. Sometimes he would catch a fleeting shadow just outside the periphery of his vision, and sometimes he would hear whispers in the dead of night. Despite his growing apprehension, he decided to confront these issues head-on. He began to keep a log of his observations, trying to pinpoint any patterns or clues. Part 4: The Unsettling Discovery. One evening, as Tom was reviewing his log and the notes he had taken, he noticed a pattern. The disturbances seemed to occur around the same time each night, always between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m. Determined to uncover the source of these disturbances, he decided to stay up one night and observe. At precisely 2:15 a.m., Tom heard the familiar rustling outside. He crept to the window, carefully peeling back the curtain. What he saw froze him in place. Across the clearing, a pair of eyes, large and unblinking, stared back at him. They were not the reflective eyes of an animal, but seemed almost human in their intensity. Tom's heart pounded as he quickly retreated from the window, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He considered calling the police, but the idea seemed absurd. After all, he had no proof other than the unsettling eyes he had glimpsed. Part 5: The Journal. Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, Tom delved into local history and lore. He discovered that the area was known for its legends of spirits and hauntings. One story, in particular, caught his attention: the tale of a hermit who had lived in the woods long ago. The hermit was said to have vanished without a trace, leaving behind only rumors of eerie eyes watching from the darkness. Tom's research uncovered more disturbing details. The hermit was believed to have been a reclusive individual who had been driven mad by isolation. Locals claimed that his spirit still roamed the woods, seeking out those who ventured into his domain. Part 6: The Confrontation. The nights grew colder, and Tom's fear began to manifest physically. His once tranquil nights were now plagued by persistent nightmares and a constant sense of dread. On one particularly frigid evening, he decided to confront the source of his terror. Armed with a flashlight and a sense of grim determination, Tom ventured into the woods toward the clearing where he had seen the eyes. The forest was eerily silent as he made his way through the underbrush. He reached the clearing, feeling a chill run down his spine as he saw the same pair of eyes watching him from the shadows. Summoning all his courage, Tom called out into the darkness, "Who's there? What do you want?" His voice echoed through the trees, but there was no response. Just as he was about to turn back, a low, mournful wail rose from the forest. The eyes seemed to intensify, their gaze more penetrating than ever. Tom felt an overwhelming sense of despair and sadness, as if the eyes were pleading with him. Part 7: The Revelation. Returning to his cabin, Tom found an old, dusty book on his doorstep. It was a journal, bound in worn leather. Inside, he discovered pages filled with the ramblings of a man who had once lived in the cabin. The entries described a growing sense of paranoia and fear of being watched by unseen eyes. The final entry was chilling: "The eyes follow me everywhere. I fear they will never leave. I must leave before they claim me." Tom realized that the eyes were not just a manifestation of his own fears, but perhaps something more sinister. The spirit of the hermit seemed to be trying to communicate, seeking release or understanding. Part 8: The Decision. Tom decided to leave the cabin. The constant fear and the unnerving presence had taken a toll on his mental and emotional well-being. He packed his belongings and prepared to vacate the property. As he drove away, he glanced back at the cabin one last time. The eyes were still there, watching from the edge of the clearing. But this time, they seemed less menacing and more resigned, as if acknowledging Tom's departure. Part 9: The Aftermath. Tom never returned to the cabin. He settled into a new home, where he found peace and comfort. However, the experience had left him with a profound sense of unease. The eyes that had watched him from the darkness remained etched in his memory, a constant reminder of the haunting presence he had encountered. Years later, he heard rumors that the cabin had been abandoned and that others who ventured there reported similar experiences. The legend of the hermit's eyes continued to captivate and terrify those who dared to explore the isolated woods. Part 10: The Legacy. Tom's story became a cautionary tale among locals and thrill-seekers alike. The cabin, with its dark history and eerie reputation, remained a place of mystery and dread. The eyes that watched from the forest were a reminder of the unsettling truth that some places are best left undisturbed, and some spirits are never truly at rest.